In this video, I'll share tips for handling angry customers. In particular, I'm going to talk about the top 7 worst things to say that make unhappy customers even more upset. Rest assured, I'll also provide tips for regaining trust when things go wrong. I'm Jeff Mowatt. For over 30 years, clients have brought me in to provide customer service training tips and techniques for their teams. What we know is that even in those organizations that provide great products and services, occasionally they're going to have customer service issues, problems that are created by weather, supply chain issues, human error, the list goes on. While we can't control external events, we can control what we say to upset customers. Certain phrases will serve to either inflame or diffuse the situation. So let's get into my top 7 worst things to say to angry customers and what we might say instead to regain their trust. Oh, and here's a tip. Be sure to watch right through to the end because we're going from least harmful expressions to the most offensive. Let's start with number 7 and what not to say when handling angry customers. Bear with us. You've probably had this experience many times. It's when a service provider is talking with a customer and they're going, just bear with me. Or maybe it's more like somebody's working away on something. You can hear them, you're talking on the phone and they go, I'm trying to find this, just bear with me. Or even on construction sites, there are signs that are written there that look like this. Essentially, when we tell someone to bear with us, a customer, what we're doing is we're giving them an order. We're following up, we're behind things, but we're telling them what to do. You need to bear with me. And not only are we telling them what to do, but we're putting a negative spin on it. We're saying, you need to bear with us, you need to tolerate us. Well, not a great way to get a relationship moving more positively when things are fouling up. So I believe it's much more impactful to, rather than give an order, express appreciation. So rather than saying, bear with us, instead, we appreciate your patience. And the benefit of saying we appreciate your patience, or I appreciate your patience, is that it's also a subtle suggestion for that other person that, hey, I know you're being patient. And the customer's thinking, oh, yeah, okay, I guess I am patient. So it's a much more impactful phrase to use when we're falling behind. That brings us to number 6 in our top 7 things of what not to say when handling angry customers. And that is, it won't be here until. Oftentimes we're in a situation where a customer is asking us to do something and we're looking at our schedule, at our agenda, our backlog of stuff, and we go, it won't be here until next Friday. Customers pick up on that negative and they tend to respond in kind. Really? Not until Friday? Gee whiz, can you pick it up? And they become more demanding. Well, I wonder whose fault that was. We typically put a negative spin. In other words, we're making a bad situation worse in the way we're communicating with a customer. So I would just encourage you, when you and your team members are interacting with customers, to consciously think about wording your messages positively. So rather than saying it won't be here until Friday, instead, it'll be here as soon as Friday. Word your messages positive. Rather than I won't be able to do it till tomorrow, I'm so slammed, you'll have it within 24 hours. That brings us to number 5 in our top 7 list of what not to say when handling angry customers. And that is, it looks like shipping messed up, or it looks like my other employee messed up. It looks like our supply chain messed up. Anytime we're interacting with a customer, they don't really want to hear about our internal problems, things that are happening at our side. And worse, when they're interacting with you or me directly, a customer, well, they don't want to see or hear us blame other people. So rather than blaming other people, if instead we'd say, rather than shipping messed up, looks like we messed up, or oops, I'm sorry about that. We take responsibility for it. And the interesting thing that most people find is that when you deal with customers and say, gosh, I'm sorry about that, we dropped the ball here, most customers are pretty quick to go, well, it wasn't your fault, but they respect the fact that you're stepping up to take responsibility. Simple thing to do to help diffuse an angry customer. Number 4 in our list of what not to say to angry, upset customers: why didn't such and such happen? Or why didn't they do this? One critically important step for us to take when dealing with angry, upset customers is to gather information. And that means, of course, asking the 5 W's, which are, who, what, where, when, and why. And yeah, the first 4 are important, but when we ask a customer why something went wrong, it's usually because someone was incompetent or someone fouled up. Why didn't shipping tell you this? Why didn't they deliver to the address? And the customer's going, I don't know, it's at your end. Or, say to the customer, why didn't you read the instructions? I guess because I'm stupid. Is that? All of those issues are irrelevant. And what they do is just make the situation worse. It brings up stuff that we don't need to address. It's almost like, talking with my wife, Lydia, and, why didn't you take such and such a route to avoid that traffic? Well, not real helpful, Jeff. It might be a quiet night when we're asking why something went wrong. So by all means, ask the 4 W's, but avoid asking customers why, at least at this stage. Number 3 in our list of what not to say when handling angry customers: well, what do you want us to do? And maybe it's under the best of intentions. You're unhappy. What do you want us to do? But the problem with asking that question in that way, what do you want us to do, is the response to that might be physically uncomfortable. I'll tell you what you can do with this product, and it's not. So that's not really a constructive way of helping to diffuse an angry, upset customer. Instead, sure, we want to express positive intentions, but you might say something along the lines of, what would work best for you? Or even better, say, we want to do the fair thing. What do you think would be fair? The benefit of wording it that way is that when you talk about wanting to be fair, it immediately helps prevent the customers from becoming too aggressive. They're feeling like, okay, all right, I'm dealing with a human here. This is a good start. And then when you add on to what do you think would be fair, it's like they're really being open. And most customers will respond pretty positively and fairly minimally toward, well, if you could take, the tax off it or cover the shipping on it. And at that point, we can actually exceed their expectations by saying, maybe we're prepared to give them 50% off, but we can say, okay, rather than giving you the tax off at 5% or whatever, we'll give you 10% off. We'll double that. So now we've exceeded customer expectations without giving away the store, so to speak. The concept is we want to do the fair thing. What do you think would be fair? That brings us to the second worst thing to say when handling angry customers. And that is the expression we've all heard. And that's, no, calm down. Calm down? You're telling me to calm down? It's condescending, it's patronizing, it's irritating, it is aggravating. So we can get customers really upset because what we're doing is we're giving them the order, we're telling them what to do, and more derisively, we are telling them how to feel. Well, that's pretty much gets them irritated to the point where I'm gonna prove why I'm feeling so irritated here. So neither of these, telling them what to do or telling them how to feel, is going to be constructive. It's the second worst thing we can say to customers, which leads me, we'll talk in a bit about the worst things, but rather than telling people to calm down, much more powerful if we can validate their feelings with an expression like, that sounds frustrating. And the value of using that term is it proves that we're listening to them. And it also sounds like not only you understand their situation, but you can appreciate the emotion behind that. Much more impactful term, that sounds frustrating versus calm down. Yikes. Well, that brings us to the number 1 worst thing to say when handling angry customers. You ready for this? So they're coming at us and we respond with, well, you fleeking jerk. Was that my outside voice? Did I just say that to a customer? And hey, between us, there are some customers out there who are jerks and, they deserve it. The problem is they have nothing to lose. We, on the other hand, not only lose the business of a customer, but we can lose our jobs. So dealing with angry, abusive customers comes with some caveats to this. And since we're talking about abusive customers, I'd like you to post in the comment section below, in your experience, where are customers sometimes more obnoxious? Is it when you deal with them in person or over the phone? So please post your comments below, and we're going to see who wins out, or who's the biggest loser. So is it in person or on the phone where customers are the most difficult? I believe that we are all paid to take the heat when it comes to dealing with customers. I mean, sometimes it just comes with the job. But that said, we're not paid enough to take abuse. And so if someone is swearing because this bleeping thing isn't working, well, that's one thing. I'm not condoning cursing, but if we've never cursed in our lives, well, okay, but before we hurl stones at other people, just consider some people are upset and they may swear. But when they're swearing at us, that is another thing. And when that happens, we need to offer positive intentions and set limits. So let's say, for example, that a customer got to the point where they're swearing at us on the phone. In that case, we might say something along the lines of, Mr. X, I want to help you, but you're using that language is preventing me from focusing on resolving this situation. So I'm going to ask if we can do this without you using that language. In other words, we've given them a warning, positive intention, give them a warning. Now, if they continue, Mr. X, as I said, I do want to help you, but I'm not going to deal with you when you're using that language. So I'm going to hang up now, but please do call back when we can resolve this without that kind of language. Goodbye. And then, of course, if we've essentially hung up on the customer after saying goodbye and offered that they can come back, well, at that point, we better, if we're smart, go to our manager right away and forewarn them so that if and when the customer does call back and ask to speak to the manager, that manager is prepared and can deal with that customer appropriately. And in some cases, it means firing the customer, which I believe should happen if they're being abusive, or the manager would say, you need to deal with me directly if we're going to continue to do business, or adjust your behavior, or whatever it is. I mean, that's the subject of another video. All right, let's recap. And I invite you and your team members to consider some of the wording that they use when they are dealing with angry, upset customers. So starting with the number 7 worst thing to say to angry customers, and that is bear with us. Instead of saying bear with us, we appreciate your patience. Number 6, it won't be here until, well, instead we can word our messages positively and say it will be here as soon as. Number 5, it looks like shipping messed up. Well, blaming other people is not appropriate, especially if those other people are other people that work within our organization or they're part of our supply chain. So rather than saying, looks like so-and-so messed up, it looks like we messed up, or your problem just became my problem, and I'm going to resolve this, work on it until you're satisfied. Number 4, why didn't you do such and such? Or why didn't somebody do something else? Asking the 4 W's is appropriate. Ask who, what, where, when. But in the heat of the moment, avoid asking why. Number 3, well, what do you want us to do? Rather than asking what you want us to do, which sounds like we won't do anything unless you ask for it. Instead, what will work best for you? Or we want to do the fair thing. What do you think would be fair? And number 2, calm down. Yikes, it's so scary. Instead of giving an order or telling them how to feel, much more impactful to validate their feelings with, that sounds frustrating. And the number 1 worst thing to say to a customer who's maybe swearing at us is to respond in kind. Instead, give positive intentions and then set limits. Bottom line is, it's human nature for employees to want to avoid confronting angry, upset customers. But in the real world of delays, human error, supply chain issues, there are going to be times when there's going to be a confrontation. Customers are going to express their displeasure. Now and then, things will go wrong. So here's a bonus phrase of what not to say when handling angry customers, and that is, you need to speak to my manager. Asking an angry, upset customer to speak to a manager means that we're asking them to repeat themselves and jump through more hoops to get it resolved. This only makes the situation worse. It makes the upset customer even more angry. And at the same time, it makes our employees feel like doormats, like they have no power, no authority to take care of the customer there and then early on the spot. So you'll have happier customers and a more motivated, engaged workforce when we equip them with customer service tips and techniques and phrases that help prevent or resolve people from becoming upset. I hope you found this to be helpful. I'm Jeff Mowatt. For more of these tips, you'll receive them for free at jeffsbusinesstips.com. See you next time.